Conspiracy theorist Alex Jones has long presented a challenge for staunch supporters of the First Amendment. At what point do kooky rants cross the line into unprotected speech? Now that line might be drawn for us by parents who lost their children in the Sandy Hook shooting. For years, InfoWars host Alex Jones has peddled the nonsense that the Sandy Hook shooting never actually happened.
The whole thing is a giant hoax. It took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
As we all know, 20 school children and 6 adults were killed in the 2012 shooting. But when challenged on his outlandish assertions, Jones often deflects.
Was that devil's advocate? The whole thing is a giant hoax. The whole thing was fake.
Yes, I've watched the footage, and it looks like a drill.
It's one thing to claim government deceit, but Jones has also singled out individual Sandy Hook parents, like Neil Heslin.
I buried my son. I held my son with a bullet hole through his head.
Shortly after that interview, Jones and another InfoWars host suggested Heslin was lying about holding his son.
Now, according to a timeline of events and a coroner's testimony, that is not possible.
Now Heslin and 2 other Sandy Hook parents are suing Jones for defamation, saying his show has led to harassment and death threats.
And Alex Jones, and he's the fuel of the fire.
Jones has responded to the lawsuit with backpedaling, saying he's the one being victimized.
I believe Sandy Hook happened. And early on, I was being bullied by internet folks and others to say nobody died.
And, of course, it's all part of a larger conspiracy.
We're being told by the media that InfoWars should be shut down for simply questioning big public events.
Actually, it might be a jury that shuts you down. You know what they should really go after? We were musing on this. They should go after, YouTube or Google or somebody, whoever sort of puts this stuff back up. I mean, if they were kind of joined to the suit, they might really be effective. But, I mean, this is just despicable. But I'm actually encouraged by the fact that these families would take that extra step. And because he hasn't been peddling that particular one with that great frequency recently, but it was just enough. And it's good for them.
Internet providers like YouTube are held harmless under the law for third-party content. Maybe this suit will cause some rethinking of that. I don't know. I'd say good for the parents, too. And there's an aspect of First Amendment law that somebody should have explained to Alex Jones a long time ago, which is that it's almost impossible for public officials and public figures to carry out this type of legal action because they have other ways of fighting back. But the law is very respectful of the rights of private people like these parents because they don't have that many other ways to fight back. So I would say that they probably have a pretty good case. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens if this ever goes to trial.
Yeah. I, like a lot of journalists, get nervous whenever there seems to be we seem to be moving towards some sort of court ruling that could set a standard around speech. But I agree with Dan that I think this is an appropriate thing for the parents to do. Alex Jones is one of the most despicable human beings on the planet, and there's no reason why he shouldn't have to face the consequences of what he has said. It's also interesting, Dan, that you mentioned the fact that YouTube and other platforms are held harmless and that they can't be sued for this because of a law passed in 1996. But the one exception to that law was just created a few days ago when Congress passed and President Trump signed the law saying that if your website involves sexual trafficking, you can be sued for the first time for the content. So that was the first opening in 20 years on that, and you could imagine a scenario where that might broaden out further, for better or for worse.
I'm wondering if yes, they are private individuals, but they were very much in the public space. They were out, very outspoken and at rallies, and over time, these parents have been out there, and I wonder what role that may play in something like this being successful. I don't know. I mean, that's
the old limited purpose public figure exception.
Yes, exactly.
That will be argued.
Yes,
sure.
it will be. But look, it's a tragic case. I think any time, and we've seen this in more recent shootings like like this, anytime that you see people jump on it to use it for any kind of political means or for to make money off of it by getting clicks or attention, I think that's a tragic thing. And perhaps this may put some pause in it. Whether or not it'll be successful, I think we'll have to wait and see.
I hope they call the owner of the Comet Pizza in to testify, because he threatened them with a lawsuit, threatened Alex Jones, and he backed off.
You should explain that he was
he was the guy. There was a young man who kept hearing the stories that there was a pedophile ring in the basement of Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C. The owner would go outside to the people protesting and say, "Come in and look. There is nothing happening here." And he kept going, and it kept going, and kept going. So this deranged young man brought a shotgun, and if it hadn't been for some quick thinking of the staff and the police, who knows who would have died in that scenario, because he thought he was saving the children. That's the result of that. And then the owner threatened to sue him, and then he said, "Oh, I didn't really mean it. It was just entertainment." So to me, that's fodder for precedent for this kind of case. And by the way, the Heslins, I'm not aware of them being so much out in front. So there are some other parents' names I know very well, but these people, I wasn't aware of that. So it looks like he just picked him out because he said, "I held my son in my arms." So he couldn't go down faster, as far as I'm concerned.
And it is worth noting that the parents, the family of Seth Rich, another person who's been faced this, they are suing as well. So
he was the DNC staffer that he claimed was somehow mixed up in WikiLeaks, and got murdered for it.
I think 2 separate lawsuits, right?
The
mother and
the brother.